Hello all, Rick here with a breakdown of the new Earth Spacedock as seen in Star Trek Picard, an evolution and replacement for the original one that was constructed in 2258. However, the initial Spacedock does continue to exist, but I'll get to that. I have already done a video covering the function and origins of the original ESD, but of course some of that lore is now obsolete with the newer one replacing it. The original station was known as the Spacedock type, and these were rare outposts, and until the new version, they were the biggest space station the United Federation of Planets constructed. Seldom used as deep space starbases, the primary role of these was to facilitate the travel and traffic around a planet world while serving as a hub for Starfleet personnel between transfers. Additionally, they provided berths for ships requiring refit and repair. Although the interior hangar space was at a premium, and often space frames were preferred, such as those around the San Francisco fleet yards. The Spacedock type saw construction in 2257 being completed over the next decade. It saw most of Starfleet's space-side operations moved to it from the original Starbase 1, which itself saw several additions to expand its use in the interim. The Spacedock was 3.6 miles in height and 2.4 wide at the saucer, meaning that it was visible from Earth's surface at certain times of day. The last we see of the Spacedock 1 is in 2372, however we also learn that at one point the Enterprise E departed from the station at some point after its commissioning, and that Spacedock 1 was suspected to be present during the Dominion War, so we can place it in operation as late as 2375, likely for a decade or so after. The next bit is speculation, but it lines up with what was happening at the time, so I think it's a relatively safe bet, considering the role its replacement would come to fulfill. With the increasing scale of starships, there would have been plans to create a new Spacedock-style station. After all, the Galaxy class had already demanded a door expansion, and eventually the Odyssey class was being developed to launch in 2386. The Odyssey was over a kilometre long, and such a vessel would find itself in danger if using the original ESD. Additional pressure to create a new station was added in 2385, when Mars's own defence network was turned on the planet by the Zatvash sect of the Tal Shiar. This sent the Federation into a 14-year guarded stance, and we can see this is reflected in many things that came out of this era. The Inquiry class was a large-scale starship designed for combat and mass-produced. Exploration initiatives were scaled back, and many far-flung UFP worlds started to feel abandoned by the organisation. First, there was the Borg incursion in 2375, and then the following Breen attack on Earth from the Dominion the same year. Then, a decade later, this event, and it all pointed out that Earth, the seat of government for the United Federation of Planets, was woefully unprepared to weather attacks. As it was, the initial Spacedock lacked weapon placements, considering it violated several treaties to position such a powerful station in orbit of a UFP world, even if it was Earth. Call it naivety, optimism, or simply striving to show no fear, but for a long time, Starfleet's stance had been to defend Earth without smothering it. Additionally, Earth was really not important nor a strategic location. Sure, it could cripple the Federation for a time, but places like Vulcan and Tellar were already set to adopt the role of capital, and with the widespread nature of Starfleet, the transfer of power could be managed rather quickly. At least, this was the traditional view. But the Borg did not care. They wanted the bodies for the collective. The Breen attacked to send a message, and no one knew why the synth attack had happened. But the point was clear. Times were changing, and Starfleet needed to do more to protect Earth. The reactor within the initial Spacedock was incredibly powerful and could provide the strongest shields in Starfleet, but by 2385 it was over 127 years old. A new system was needed, and one that did not rely on the same sort of networked intelligence that the Mars Defence Grid used. So scale and defendability were at the core of the new class of Spacedock, and to reflect its scale the class was given the designation the Sol class. Station Sol 398392, named Probert Station, was designed to replace the aging ESD as the new Starfleet hub in orbit of Earth, and the first of a new line of more defensible installations. The design was not radically different from the former, and the reasoning for this is the same as the out-of-universe explanation: it was iconic Starfleet. The generator was newer and far more powerful, and a part of the new planetary shield grid that could be erected. Other planets already had such a system installed, but again, Earth was special, and such a shell was often scorned in the past. The planetary shield would not be entirely generated from Sol Station, but it was the coordinating key point to the entire grid, as it could expand its shielding to cover a large segment of Earth's atmosphere before connecting with other relays to encase the planet. Additionally, the station itself drew power from this same shielding system, so it too could remain as defended as the rest of the planet. The strength of this shielding was shown to us in 2401, with the Borg hijacked fleet of over 300 starships all unleashing their firepower against Earth. Sol Station bore the brunt of the attack and withstood it for what seemed like almost an hour, which is insanely impressive. Near constant bombardment from a fleet where your average is a sovereign class? Yeah, the engineers did their job on that one. Sure, it eventually fell, but let's be honest, it was not designed to be the only defensive point in the system. There is supposed to be a Starfleet presence here too. Additionally, this new Sol type would feature phaser and photon placements, unlike the first ESD, and these were equipped. So, that certainly addresses the concerns about defending Earth. What about its main duties as a hub for Starfleet's operations? The design retained the same basic layout as the original Spacedock, with the top dome being mostly a hollow hangar, but increased in size. The station was now around 5.2 miles in height and around 5 miles in diameter, once again making it the largest station constructed by the United Federation of Planets that we have seen. Internally too, the hangar remained following the layout that had worked for years. One obvious addition, or 5 I guess, are the additional domes on extended arms. Each of these is a self-contained hangar, much like the central one, and a dry dock for repairs, vastly expanding this area of the station. The majority of offices and communications networks have all been moved to the top spires of the complex, which manage the comings and goings of the entire Sol system and communication with all the other stations in the system. Now, there is one feature that I wanted to point out, and that is at several points in its structure we can see these rings. For such a scale and resource investment, they must be more than superficial decoration. Yet, they do not attach to anything, and are in fact free-floating independent rings. I'm not sure, but I'm going to assume that they are part of some system, like sensors or even emitters for the planetary shield or something. Just a curiosity I noted. Overall, Sol Station quickly became referred to as just Spacedock, despite its larger scale and more defensive role, and I can think of no better sign that it worked as intended than to see how quickly it was adopted into the role. As for the original Spacedock, well, Starfleet is loath to retire a good thing, unless it has an F affix, apparently. So the station was moved to Athan Prime to function as the new Fleet Museum, a video for another day. Until then, thanks for watching this breakdown on the new Earth Spacedock, Probert Station, Sol Station, or the ESD. Until the next video, thanks again, I've been Rick, and goodbye.